In this episode of Aperitivo Hour, we sit down with Shannon Tresider, our Chief Product and Technology Officer at Detector Inspector, to explore what modern product leadership really looks like, especially inside a company balancing the dual worlds of service and software. We unpack how product management has evolved and how Shan has helped shape a culture where cross-functional alignment, real-time data, and customer obsession drive meaningful change. From turning frontline insights into strategic product decisions to leading with curiosity and resilience, Shan shares what it takes to deliver impact at scale and why DI is not just keeping up with PropTech's pace, but setting the agenda. And yes, I may be a little biased, but with DI now a finalist in 2 categories at the 2025 PropTech Awards, I think it's safe to say we're tackling one of the toughest spaces in property, compliance, and turning it into a platform for progress. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and let's get into it. Welcome back to Aperitivo Hour, the podcast for PropTech product managers. I'm Ash, and today's guest is actually someone very special to me. She's the person who took a chance on me and gave me my first opportunity in product and has been a mentor inspiration ever since. So I'm excited to be sitting down with Shannon, the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Detector Inspector.
Bit of a mouthful, yes.
It is, but I do like the combination. So in this episode, we're going to dive into how product has changed over the years and what it takes to lead product in a company that's both a service provider and a PropTech, which is a bit of a niche. So just to start off, Shan, what is product management to you?
Great question, Ash. So product management, I think in my perspective, is a whole heap of things. It can be the product itself and understanding what you need to deliver to your set of clients. It can be an offering from your company and your organization. It can be an experience. It can be the technology that underpins it. It can be the people, and it can be the culture that kind of revolves around it. I think product management for me is a combination of all of that. It is the type of experience that you want to create that sets you apart from your competitors, as well as really get you in touch with your clients and ensure that that offering that you have kind of meets the needs, addresses the problems, and you're always thinking about what next and taking that kind of next phase that maybe sometimes your clients don't even know is there. And so exploring and experimenting and understanding how you can continue to change and drive forward in that space. So it really is a combination of all of that, but not limited to that as well. And I kind of mentioned the experience. I would say it's also the people that support that product. It is your contact center staff. It is your operations. It is your people out using that product to kind of surface that experience. It is just kind of the net of all of those things wrapped up into product management.
And you've come from different industries and wasn't PropTech prior to this. So how do you feel the difference between the industry actually makes a difference to the product you're actually driving or how you approach the product? Does it make a difference or?
I mean, yes and no. I would say there are always foundations that you learn just through product management or through delivery and engineering practices. And I think they're very transferable across all industries. Things like understanding who your customer is, the different types of techniques in terms of understanding what the problems are you're trying to solve, and then how you work with your delivery and product teams to deliver a solution or deliver an experience is very transferable. Think, from an industry specific point of view, the things that do make a difference is then the opportunities to engage with the subject matter experts to really make that experience very bespoke for the industry that you're in. And so kind of like you mentioned, I've only recently, I'd say in the last 4 or 5 years since joining Detector Inspector, entered into the PropTech realm. And it's been such an incredible journey. I didn't realize just how big PropTech was. I mean, my background's very much in the financial accounting industry. And so coming over, it was really delightful. Number one, just to see this industry and how it's shaping. I think the opportunities in this industry as well. I mean, very transactional around just the types of things that we can automate and that we can do, but also what's to come. And I don't think we've yet seen what's to come in this space. And it's so incredibly exciting to be involved in it within the company that I work in at the moment, but also to see how the industry is taking that next step in the PropTech world.
Absolutely. And before we zoom in on the PropTech space, I did want to talk about the product a little bit more. But even myself, coming from real estate, I didn't take that traditional path into product itself. And that's part of what I love about this field, is that people can come in from all different angles. And I think that's what makes the discipline a little bit richer, is I've got my experiences and everyone brings their real focus and their kind of niche and brings it in and makes it a really interesting environment. But it also brings a few blind spots sometimes as well, which, like everything.
I mean, from what I've observed, such transactional pain points. And I think as you're kind of adequately talking about, just listings or payments or bookings and how to digitize a lot of these experiences. And I think over the past few years, we've taken the opportunity to really kind of lean into that and to try and lead through automations. But with AI coming in and the ability to do more predictive compliance, it becomes incredibly exciting, that space where we can go to that next level. And that's really where I'm certainly excited to play in within my role here at Detector Inspector, and also just to see what's coming out of the industry.
Well, what you're just mentioning with PropTech, it has changed and is still changing and is going to continue to evolve. It's only really beginning. How have you seen product management change in the environments that you've been able to play a part in PropTech? And has that kind of changed the people that you're dealing with in product in this space or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first joined, it was very much all around integrations, kind of driving automations as part of PropTech in the space that we're in. And I think that was considered pretty forefront in terms of what we were doing. We were able to automate certain processes around the service offering that we were doing. I think it's still quite a reactive mindset. And I think what we're seeing in the industry is still multiple systems being used to produce one outcome or one experience, particularly for our customers. And so I think we will soon move into a space where this embedded experience and leveraging information across platforms to create an experience for our joint customers is going to become a lot more forefront and a lot more proactive in the way in which we can service our joint customers. And I think what I've seen is that conversation has started to shift from when I first joined here at Detector Inspector to kind of now, fast forwarding 4 or 5 years, we are seeing a lot more of different parts of the customer journey become digitized. We're seeing that we're all needing the same type of information and data in order to create these really seamless experiences. And so I think that proactive mindset on how we can do that is going to start to come up a lot more in conversation around how we can work together, given we've got the same joint customer.
With DI, we've got customers and we've got partners that we deal with across all these different businesses because we integrate with different prop techs in this industry. And this is the interesting thing about DI. It's not just a prop tech, it is a service provider, and it is a bit of this duality of having the service and having the tech, and being a really strong part of this real estate industry and not just the prop tech industry. And it's a very well-oiled machine in the service space that's evolving into a true prop tech. So I wanted to kind of understand from your perspective, and being at DI for years and being part of this huge change and evolution into the technology, how do you navigate that shift?
It's a great question. I mean, I think you can't change overnight. I mean, first and foremost, particularly at Detector Inspector, our mission is we save lives. And I don't think that will ever change. We want to be able to provide, as you mentioned, really great services, and we want to do them really, really well. I think as technologies have evolved and the industry has changed, where we've become more accustomed to understanding how we can get into that space is by really understanding that being tech-enabled and tech-driven and leaning into that prop tech is a way that we can differentiate ourselves from our competitors. And we do that in a number of ways. I think having a focus on being able to easily scale through our platforms, and so creating really robust, reliable platforms in which we can scale up or down or react really quickly to regulatory changes across different states, means that we can focus more on the experience that we want to provide to our customers, as opposed to just trying to keep up and react to changes. And so I do think I've seen quite a shift in our teams in creating those really reliable solutions. And then I think, secondly, starting to decouple our technology and create those types of experiences for our customers that isn't just about the service offering, and looking at a compliance as a platform and providing the tools for our customers to be able to manage their compliance. I mean, for us, we live and breathe compliance every day. It's not just a date and a tick. Yes, we understand that compliance is a lot more fluid than that, and that within a property, something can become non-compliant really, really quickly. And so we want to be able to provide those tools to manage that, to be proactive and predictive. And I think the fact that we are in, 2,500 homes every day, and we are collecting this really, really great, rich, important data, enables us the ability to equip our agencies to manage their compliance in real time, and have the tooling to be able to be on top of all of that. And I think that is really exciting for Detector Inspector. I think it's been great to, coming back to your question, to navigate that change. It's been a really kind of slow burn as we've seen more and more things change in the industry, and we've started to introduce and really lean into that, because we've seen just how much compliance is changing and driving from a regulatory basis. And we believe in our vision, and that helps when you have a culture that kind of focuses around that.
Yeah. When it comes from the data side of it as well, data is something that you need compliance. We have to drive off data. It is such an integral part of what we do. But from a technical perspective as well, and the data security and that angle, how is it as a company seeing other companies in the industry and being able to really make sure that we're ahead of the curve and we're protecting our data, and we focus on that as a core principle in what we do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a critically important question, right? I think as we are moving so fast in the technology space, what we're seeing is not just in our industry, I think in everyday life, your protection of your data, of your identity, just the cyber awareness is becoming critically important to not just organizations, but to you as a person and how you operate online. I mean, you can't hide from it, because as you can see, the technology is advancing at a rate. And here at Detector Inspector, we take it incredibly serious, the protection of that data. We have specialized, cybersecurity roles. We ensure that we have defense mechanisms across all of our systems. We ensure that we've got the right level of authentication and platforms to manage that. And it really is treated as a first-class citizen, which it should, because it is so critically important to everyday life, not only for, as I mentioned, organizations, but as individuals. And I think equally as important, and, we do focus a lot on the systems to protect, but sometimes what we overlook is just the people. Awareness is so incredibly important on your team, and ensuring that anyone that works within the organization is aware of those types of policies and what they can do. We, as you know, Ash, we talk about it every kind of second day. We talk about it every leadership chat. We're out there reminding our frontline staff. And I think that repetition of message, that right process, ensure that, not only do we have the right systems and defenses, that we have the right processes and protocols there. And so that we can ensure that we've got the right visibility, particularly in the cyberspace as well. It is an area that we do take really seriously, and we should really.
Absolutely. Well, from that personal and personable perspective comes kind of the hiring lens and the internal aspect of product. And so I wanted to tap into that and get an honest opinion from someone that is hiring in product. So the job title product manager has actually stayed the same for a few years and a few variations, but the role completely transforms depending on what you're looking at, what company you're working in. And it has continued to transform, and I think it will continue to. So from when you first started to now, how has that actually changed for you personally and for what you're seeing in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll answer that question a few ways, I guess, because you're right. It has really, like any role, it's changed and transformed. Roles do change as technology becomes more advanced and as the different industries, change as well. And so I guess looking at the product lens, there's a couple of things. first and foremost, where I've seen, I guess, that transformation is that a product manager is not just someone that looks after one product. You have to be the ability to multitask across a number of different products is just essential to the success of being within that role. And the ability to kind of ruthlessly prioritize different product offerings is, really, really critical. I also think that kind of those different hats that role has to play. There is the hat of working with the delivery manager, if you're afforded a delivery manager, right? Or the tech lead. And so really having a relationship where you deeply understand some of the technical changes and the stresses that might be coming out of that within the team to ensure that your conversations are guided by that. I think, there's the business analyst role. So understanding the data that you might need to drive those decisions and what change that you want to make. The change management hat, which is out working with operations in terms of the execution of that product or that experience and ensuring that that storytelling is always there. And so I've really seen, I guess, this role transform into a lot of different hats that is being played, and really even to the point where, technical abilities to have conversations with our engineers, I'm starting to see a lot more around. It's not just enough to understand the product. It's really important to be aware of the analytics behind the product, the security awareness behind the product, to ensure that you have the ability to ask really great questions that provide credibility in the engineering team that you're working with. It's not just about a siloed role anymore. It's about being able to play the role or the hat with what's needed within the team and the kind of product that you're dealing with. And really critically important that there is that alignment with the tech lead or the delivery lead within that team, because you kind of need to know that the left hand needs to know what the right hand's doing. And it's this kind of natural dance between what can we kind of set expectations with our execs or our stakeholders versus what's feasible and deliverable versus what are the trade-offs in terms of scope or time. So I've really seen, I guess, that transform over the course of the last 10 years, really. And I think, we'll start to see that transform even more over the next kind of 10 years to come.
Well, that kind of leads into, we've seen yourself, you're now the CPTO. So you're the product and technology officer. And previously it used to be very clear you had product and you had technology and you worked alongside each other, but not necessarily driven by the same goals. How have you seen that change? And do you think that is the right direction to go in?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think it's really down to the organization and it's down to the size and the appetite. I mean, I know here at Detector Inspector, it made sense for us to have someone that had an overview across both sides of the coin. So not only strategic decision we were wanting to go with our product offerings, but also the ability to work with our engineer leads in terms of the strategic North Star on our technical platforms as well. And so I think having an understanding of both camps certainly makes it easier from an execution point of view. But I would kind of caution that you still need to have that, roles that are around to be able to challenge, to be able to input, and to be able to really kind of come up with the best types of solutions, because it's not just the one answer that's always the best fit. I think why it works really well is because in Detector Inspector, we have, particularly in our leadership, really, really high technical competencies. And so, me being in this role, I have a technical leadership that are all highly, highly technical. And so our conversations and our roadmaps and our discussions around platforms are not just my decision, it's more around where we understand the business needs to lead. And so I think having that environment and that culture provides really, really great outputs. I think I've seen it's been a good fit for Detector Inspector, but it might not necessarily work for other organizations, because sometimes it is really good to have that separation of power as well.
And you coming into DI as it was and really fitting into the tech space and building it out, you're just talking about listening to the different tech leads and really the people that have that expertise in those different areas. How do you find working alongside the technical side and the product side and really making sure that you're listening to the exact scenario you're in and the exact company you're in and making that work so that everyone feels like you're not stepping on toes and you're actually trying to drive the whole ship forward?
Yeah, it's a good question and it's hard, right? Because I think depending on what role, depending on what team, everyone's going to have their own goals or their own objectives of what they're trying to achieve. And I think in my experience, where I've seen organizations flourish and teams flourish is really where you have the ability to not only empathize within the roles that you're managing or working with, but you have a culture that really encourages alignment, conversations, joint goals, joint kind of roadmaps and strategic thinking. And so that you're both talking about how to achieve something, not both competing against kind of priorities that might not be aligned, because that's where it becomes really difficult. I mean, I think we're lucky here at Detector Inspector that leadership, and I know personally, I love flat structures. I love the ability that you have myself working alongside, our engineers and doing peer reviews or asking to test and being really connected to those experiences, because I think that's what, creates the ability to not only empathize with decision making, but also to really understand potentially where the stresses are coming from the team, so that if you are in a decision making role, you have the ability to kind of understand all the teams and all the aspects and drive the right decision making forward. And so I think that helps. I think being really connected to the teams at different levels, I think having joint goals, and I think having a culture where you encourage conversation, you encourage really rigorous debate and conversation and kind of ruthless prioritization creates a really, really healthy environment and a fun environment where we get things done, right? And we see things delivered and we celebrate that. So it is something that I love here in this space. And I think that, we are doing a really great job of that culture.
I definitely agree with that. Like, knowing that I've come from different sides of the business and I've come from background in real estate, but coming into the product team specifically, it is about using the strengths of each of the different team members and really leaning into that as well. Not everyone needs to be an expert on every single thing. You really make sure that you build the right team to work for whatever goals you're trying to achieve. And so you've definitely built a lot of high performing teams, but I like to think that we are one of those in our
Absolutely.
role, and I'm in part of that team. And so what I want to understand is, how do you make that call on who gets that yes? How do you make the call on what invisible traits that make a product manager successful? And if you are looking to hire someone, what do you look out for in a candidate?
It's a tough question, I guess. I mean, first and foremost, I think, and maybe I'll just talk personally about certainly what I look for, like skills, that kind of stuff you can teach. Anything that you can teach is really easy, whether it's a domain, whether it's a type of process or a skill that's teachable. That's like the easy stuff. I think what's really hard to hire for is like that get up and go kind of personality or that growth mindset. I always look for people that are coming in that are keen to learn, they're curious, so they ask questions, they want to understand the why, they listen and really actively listen and then want to be taught or, again, ask that question why we're doing certain things, because I find that when you have someone that's willing and really eager to learn, like everything else just comes from that. And of course, there needs to be some background into that space of where you're hiring and et cetera. But I think, the first and foremost is a really kind of proactive nature and a really great culture that I've seen, or examples of where I've seen them, whether it's high performing or asking those questions and taking the lead on making a change. So, as an example, some of the best people that come into business analyst roles or product roles come from the contact center. And I love that because they're problem solving every single day. They are looking at systems, they're learning new systems, they're on the phone to maybe problems that are coming up, and they're constantly making these trade-off kind of conversations. And so innately, they're already doing all of these skills that are all transferable. And I love seeing that in people and seeing that as an example. They've seen a process that hasn't worked, and so they've gone, well, I'm going to do something about that and I'm going to change that. And that's what I like to see, because that's the stuff that you can't teach, is this kind of proactiveness nature to wanting to do better for an organization or wanting to do better for a team or a process. And so I definitely, when you said what's that invisible trait, that's always kind of in my mind around like whether there's examples or whether talking to someone I've seen that I'm always looking for. And also just diverseness as well, like, diversity of thought, really looking at team makeups and team structure and understanding, have we got that diverse nature? Because the population is diverse, our clients are diverse. And so really making sure that we do have that as well is important. And those different experiences that come so that we can have, like I was saying before, those really great challenging conversations where, we talk about, well, is that the right way to do it? Or is there another way to do it? Or I had this thought to do it this way. And I think that's where you start to create these really magical moments out of a product or an experience. I certainly look for that. I love to see people testing and trialing new technologies or coming up with new ideas or kind of challenging the status quo. I think they're all the types of things that really kind of set someone apart from another person.
Invisible traits are something that's interesting because everyone approaches this very differently. I've met people from my similar background. I've met people that came in straight through BAs. And when I was looking to get into this industry, I've mentioned before, I really had a bit of a blocker before I spoke to you or even knew that DI was looking for a product manager into this role. I really had a lot of blockers in trying to understand how I could make that transition and how I could make a difference in an industry that I love, because this is something that I'm very passionate about, clearly. So for me, this ability to go into an industry from the left and just make little changes to try to improve it was really, really important for me. And a lot of our company all come from the port background where they really understand the kind of complexity and the difficulty of the customer experience and really trying to put that customer first and make that focus of what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think, customer led is always at the heart of what we want to do. We want to, we want to solve problems. We want to be connected to the people that we're solving problems for. It kind of doesn't matter. And this is the bit I love about Detector Inspector. It doesn't matter what role you're in, from our directors to our CEO, to our product managers, even to our engineers, connecting to customers, listening, talking, like working through the products that we've got, I think really connect us to what it is that we're doing. And it gives meaning behind a lot of the stuff that we're doing. And, I am passionate about ensuring that we do create those environments that people that are building things are connected to the people that are consuming things. Like, it makes sense, but sometimes it's not as easy as that in other organizations that you see.
And that's, I think, where we're pretty lucky because I get to be hands-on in all aspects of it. I get to speak to the agencies. I get to and do that real customer-facing aspect of it. I get to be speaking to the devs, going through their PRs, going through what they're building and being like, great, can we tweak this? Can we tweak that? Because the actual experience of it is going to be so different depending on how you really implement it. Let's flip it a little bit. When you're starting in product, or actually just starting from your career, how did you lead up into product? Where did you start? Where did you come from to get into this field?
Yeah, like I think it's probably non-conventional. I'm not sure anymore because, like I was saying to you before, I truly believe people can kind of do any role that they want to do with the right time, the right focus, and the right types of skills if that's where you're wanting to get into. And so my own journey, I really started off in more operations background, understanding why things hang together against different companies that I've worked for, implementing a lot of things that were being built, training those things, understanding how to create processes that optimize that. And early on in my career, working in that space, particularly as either a specialist, I've done support, I've done sales, I've done operations, I've done project management, I've done product management, I've been a product owner of CRM transformations, so highly back-end technical. I think starting early off in my career, having a really good appreciation for how things get executed and how things kind of hit, basically you productionize something and get that out, very quickly gave me the ability to understand all these different roles that we've been talking about. Like, product development or product management is not just one person or one role. It's kind of everything. It's the chain of everything. And so starting off understanding at this end about how something gets delivered and executed really gave me, I believe, strong foundations when you start to have a voice at the start about how we need to consider things get operationalized, or how we need to consider not only our clients, but also our sales or our support people that are delivering it. So early in my career, I'd say the first 5 years was very focused around that side. I've done things leading and project managing large products out into the companies that I've worked for. I worked in the financial sector as well. I guess my big shift into technical engineering came at when I was working at MYB. I'd already kind of dabbled in CRM transformation, particularly we were breaking out, monolithic applications into microservices. And so had the opportunity to move over into a more technical role, managing multiple engineering teams. And that kind of brought with me then this whole next 10 years of experience working directly with engineers and building products that we could then support a desktop to cloud transformation type approach to some of the products that we were working on. And it gave me the ability to really understand the full product life cycle. So right from ideation all the way through to execution. And I spent a good kind of 15 years across all of those roles really understanding it. And then I think that really afforded me the experience as I've come into Detector Inspector to kind of be in the role I am at the moment. I think, Ash, I'm always about when a product's coming up, but how will people, not only will our clients take this, we need to test this with our clients. What about our people on the phones? How are they going to sell this? Like, do people understand that? Have we got the support tools that's there? Because that experience really shapes the kind of offering that we have. And it's important that we're across all of that, because the best products are very intuitive. Everyone understands exactly what they are and what they're designed to do. And so, whilst non-conventional, I really think my experience has shaped me to where I am today, to be able to really empathize in each of those roles and each of those parts of the software delivery life cycle. And of course, along the way, going back and studying and understanding and having the ability to kind of have a voice at the table, particularly in technical conversations. And that is just as important as the experience. And so, really investing in my learning and my time in that space as well, I think has aided to that.
Well, you've obviously always had that get up and go and that drive to learn, because otherwise you wouldn't be where you are. So in your experience, someone that didn't have that drive to learn, would they be the people that struggle the most in this field? If someone goes, I've just gone straight out of uni, or I want to be a product because I want to do this specific one thing, who are the people that might love the idea of product but not really thrive in the reality of what it is?
It's a good question. The people that I've seen advance more are those that have a growth mindset, are willing to be challenged and seek to be challenged, are open to having conversations about their approach to whether they're technical problems or product problems, and they're seeking feedback and adjusting that. I think they're the type of personalities or people that I've seen succeed in roles, because you're wanting to learn more and you're wanting to understand how you can contribute more, really makes you, I guess, more rounded in a whole heap of different things in your career. And whether that's just wanting to come in entry level at an associate product manager, or whether it's saying, actually, I can't get into that because I haven't got experience. So what if I came in and did some support analyst experience? And then there's a pathway to move into that. I think it's someone that kind of sees those opportunities and can really take that every role that you're doing or every kind of thing that you're doing is adding to your experience, and really kind of appreciating what experience you're getting out of that and how that contributes to your next role, whether it's upwards, sideways, opening up breadth, like all of that stuff is where I've seen people succeed the most, I would say.
And there's a lot of kind of pressure on new PMs because all the advice on LinkedIn, and then you get the books, and then you see on Instagram, whichever it is, and you're getting all this advice on how to be a visionary and strategic thinker and confident communicator in this space. And so we also need to be super collaborative, and it's a lot. What's your message to someone just starting out and feeling like they're not enough yet, and that they don't have all the answers and they don't have all the toolkit that they need?
I guess my advice would be you don't, I don't. Like, no one has all the answers. You know, you mentioned LinkedIn and articles, or it's like getting information, taking a sip of water from a fire hydrant. There is so much stuff out there, and very quickly you can become really, really overwhelmed. And of course, there are different techniques. You can focus on certain skill sets. You can understand, I think, where your strengths are and where your opportunities are to lean in. My advice would be open to that. Do a self-assessment on where you think your strengths are. Seek feedback from trusted people. So whether that's via a mentorship or just someone that you trust really close, ask for that feedback. Hey, what do you think I do really well? Where you think are opportunities that I could continue to focus on? And then use that as an opportunity to be aware of that and double down on that. And you can do that whether it's through training, whether it's through aligning yourself with someone that is really strong in that area and learning about that to kind of upskill in that space. So I think my first kind of tip would be you can't know everything because you just never will, but be really self-aware around where your strengths are and where your opportunities to improve on, and be proactive about that. I think the second thing would be, and again, this is my personal advice, find a culture that enables you to be vulnerable, and a culture that really embraces learning and kind of succeeding through that culture, because we are all going to make mistakes. We are all human. There is going to become a time in your career that you've made a decision or you've been involved in something that hasn't yielded the results that you wanted to, whether that's, you know, an outage, or whether that's being involved in something that's just failed from a product launch perspective. And so being aware, learning from that, and taking accountability is really what sets you apart from someone else as well. So they're probably the two kind of most practical things I could offer, I guess. And then, of course, it's aligning with industry best practices. It's all the kind of stuff that you could read an article about. They're the things that I would say are not as discussed that I certainly would say are important.
Well, I definitely think I was able to come in at a really good time. It was a really great opportunity for me coming into PropTech in 2019, and then I came into DI, and then I was able to move into this team and at DI, and I've had a really amazing opportunity here to see the evolution of DI in our technology space. So I wanted to just pull the lens back a little bit and look at PropTech more broadly there. And as I mentioned, coming from that industry myself, what started as a few like huge powerhouse marketing platforms, now it moved from a few clunky apps to something that's a lot more sophisticated. It's a more competitive tech space. We can see everyone and the dog has an app and has this and that and the other now. But PropTech is, as we were mentioning at the beginning, evolving very fast, and not all solutions are created equal. So you've had a front row seat to all of this for the last 5 years. What is automation in terms of what we do at DI, and how is that actually moving the needle for agencies?
Great question. I think we've always felt that we were cutting edge on some of the technology platforms that we've provided. We were an organization that kind of built the concept of a portal that provided compliance information, which was, you know, really game-changing 10 years ago. Is it game-changing now? Not really. It's kind of like a stock standard. Everyone's got a portal and everyone has that information, readily available. I think here at Detector Inspector, the element that sets us apart is we're always thinking, what next? In 5 years' time, what does that need to look like? And really driving ourselves to think about that without losing sight of the current offering and experience that we need to provide. And over the course of the last few years, I think we've aimed to elevate the experiences that we provide to agencies through the automations that we have with property management systems, but then what we can do with that data and what we can do to ensure that we create really robust experiences that solve problems and issues for agencies. Recently, we've looked at releasing things where we're actually managing compliance at, an appliance level rather than just that date-driven, I've done the service, and giving the tools to be able to see at a property management level, a compliance platform that enables you to manage all of your properties and have the tools that you can actually at any point in time go in and see just how compliant that property is, and then be able to create solutions at the level of a non-compliant appliance. And I think that is incredibly game-changing when kind of 3-4 years ago, it was just, I've done this service check, yes, and I did it on this date. And the reality is that that does not make the property compliant. It's understanding the things that are in that house and making sure that they're safe and that they are always changing. It is so fluid, and being able to provide that information at the right time to our agencies to ensure that that liability is there, and ultimately at the end of the day, that that property is safe. And I kind of said it at the start, but we exist because we save lives, and we truly believe in that message. And I know certainly that I'm super proud to work for an organisation where we are doing all the things that we can do to ensure that the housing industry in Australia is safe. And that remains at the forefront. And being able to use technology to drive that and save our agencies time so that they can go out and do the things they need to do, and we can do the things that we can do, is something that I think is an incredible step forward to the technology that we can produce.
And I think this is one of the things that will always make DI stand out in this industry, and just as a real thought leader in this environment, because compliance is about safety, and that is the be all and end all, and every property manager knows that. You're tracked on that. You've got audits on that. So important from just a business perspective, but your day-to-day behavior and who you're dealing with, which is tenants who are living in this home and its owners, that's their life investment, that's their assets, that's everything to them. Compliance is something that you can't really slide to the side.
That's it. If I could just add, and compliance is becoming, based on each state, like more and more complex as well. And I think, as you kind of said, Ash, like there's so much more burden on property managers needing to do all of these things to ensure the property can be leased. And so I think if we can make that easier by using our technology and our data to lessen, like even just data entry or manual types of processes, then we can create those environments for our property managers to be able to do the things that they want to do, which is ultimately get out and talk to tenants or talk to prospects, rather than sitting in front of the computer trying to enter things into a system.
And just before we wrap up, is there anything that you'd want to add just from the DI space or from a product space or from a PropTech space before we close off today?
I mean, that's a big question. Well, I mean, I guess there's a few things. I think we are so incredibly passionate here at Detector Inspector about creating not only safer houses, but having the technology behind it to create a platform where we can make compliance management so much more seamless. And I think I'm a little biased because I work in the teams, but I sit with our account managers, I sit with our support teams, and everyone truly is so passionate about that message. And I really think it does set us apart because we all believe in the kind of the goals that we want to achieve in this space. And I think to have leaders that really believe and support teams to be able to achieve that is equally as inspiring. From a technology space, we are entering into a world where is so exciting and frightening at the same time. I think, we thought the release of the internet was big. Well, we're entering into another kind of industry change or disruption, that there are varying degrees of understanding and knowledge and how we use that. There are unknowns. It's an exciting space to be in, but it's also kind of a space where we need to tread in a way that we take our customers along that journey with us as well. And I think that we are doing a really great job of being able to incorporate this into our business. And then I think lastly, for anyone looking to get into product, into technology, into engineering, I think, my message is don't limit yourself. Like there is there is so much opportunity. And so, like I was saying, there are so many different pathways to get into the space. I think my goal is eventually when I leave, whether it's this role or leave this space, that someone comes along and does even more stuff, even better, and introduces new things, because you create that space and that culture to be celebrated. And so I think don't underestimate your experience and how that can be transferable into this type of space, because I think Ash, you stepping into this role and what you've brought within the team has been an incredibly insightful journey to the team and to yourself because of all of your real life experiences. We can teach the process. We can teach the kind of the frameworks that we've built. It's really like what we were talking about, that kind of can-do attitude to bring in. That's really important.
Okay, so before we sign off today, I wanted to give my takeaways from today's catch-up with Shan. 1. At Detector Inspector, innovation happens because of the culture, not in spite of it. A collaborative, low-ego, mission-driven environment creates strong alignment across technology, sales, and operations. That's what enables DI to turn real-world data into powerful compliance tools for real estate, transforming necessary compliance into a strategic advantage for an agency. 2. PropTech is just getting started. The industry is only beginning to unlock the power of automation and AI. There's a huge opportunity for PropTech to shift towards creating seamless, embedded customer experiences across platforms powered by shared data. But tech is only valuable if it's adopted. Bringing customers along for the ride means explaining the why, simplifying the complex, and earning trust through transparency. In an industry built on relationships, empathy and education are as important as innovation. Okay, and number 3, great product managers think bigger. Product today is so much more than delivering features or managing backlog. It's about orchestrating an entire ecosystem, not just the systems, but the people, the service, the experience, and the culture. A modern PM needs a whole hat stand. You need to be a strategist, a delivery lead, a business needs translator, a change manager, all in one. You're not just building a product, it's about influencing outcomes through alignment and ruthless prioritization. It's all about creating clarity around that light on the hill. What truly separates product managers isn't a stack of certifications, it's a mindset. It's about being deeply curious, asking why constantly, seeking feedback without ego, and owning the outcomes, even when the path is unclear. Technical skills can be taught, but the ability to adapt, learn fast, and lead with empathy is what elevates a PM from good to great. And I don't have all the answers, I know that. And I can only use the toolkit I'm building day to day to show up and hopefully make a difference to the people I work with and the product I help create. So I am very thankful to Shan for joining me and giving us all a masterclass. And I thank anyone listening for pressing play and being part of this niche community. So thank you and hope to see you next time on Aperitivo Hour.